religions and that kind of thing, that he is the one who helps the spirits on this side, the ones like at Halloween when the veils are thin. He'll help manage my home so that the spirits don't come walking into my house because I'm a bright light. And so with that I work a lot with the beings who help with passing. And with that Azrael, he is, oh my gosh, he's just love. And he does help people who do cross over. So no one crosses over alone. But what working with these beings have done, and working through losing my whole family within 7 years. No, I have not lost a child or a husband, even though he was an alcoholic. And many times I'm surprised he walked through the door when he was driving. That we just all have these moments where grief has hit. Well, when I've had to walk through grief, I looked at it from many different perspectives. So when an animal was passing in my lap, I was helping them pass as they went. So I have helped animals, I have helped, even my dad, I was holding his hand as he passed. And so with that I saw and I witnessed that process of, for example, I was 6 weeks away from having my first child when I was holding my father's hand when he was passing. And so I had a child inside of me needing to work through the grief process, knowing that I could not just be in full-fledged grief. And my dad and I were ones that we would finish each other's sentences. So we were two peas in a pod in a way, many past lives together, a lot of interactions. And so with that I knew how to walk through grief without really engaging with the emotion of it, but seeing what that emotion truly does to the body, the spirit, the mind, and a lot of those things. And so with me, that I've really woven myself with the grief process. And then 3 years later, when my mom had Lou Gehrig's disease and having my second child, 3 weeks after she was born, that I found out my mom had Lou Gehrig's, there's this process of grief and childbirth and life and death, and it's just been in my face. And so with that's where I do help ones who are going through grief, at least having some form of empathy, sympathy, anything, whatever you want to call it, to help us walk through these moments as we do. And so I'm hoping to help people with my mediumship and my intuitive work. That's why I'm the intuitive personal awareness coach, because I can bring in those helpings and dances when someone is struggling with that. And welcome, Regan.
See, you are intuitive. You knew that he was going to be on.
Well, text helped.
Hey, Regan. Regan. Hello.
He's still arriving.
Hello. Hello, Mr. Regan. He can't hear us. Can you hear us, Regan?
I think he's still navigating the technique. When you're doing sessions, sometimes it takes a little bit to come out of them ourselves because we're deep in the work. And so with this is that humanness that's kind of trying to navigate through the spiritual thing that we just walk through. And so we can all manage this a little bit. And it's fun and it's interesting and thank you, Regan, very much for being one that can help us, know what us who are working through something can navigate through, and I just wanted to say too, that as we're walking through this, we are showing this on Martin Luther King Day. And I just want to take a moment to honor all those. And I mean this with all the love that I can, that I personally honor those that struggled so hard to make our world a better place. And Martin Luther King, I'm grateful for you being a huge voice for the love. And yet those ones that didn't make it because of other people's opinions I want you to know that they are not forgotten, even though it may seem like that there's this ripple effect that their beings are carried on with other past lives. Some of them have crossed back over to where they're now human again, and some of them were the young ones that were in the riots and having a voice. And with that just know that they were loved. They weren't taken away as I'm getting an image of someone in a tree, and I'm not going to go into the details, that they were not standing, they weren't alone, and their soul wasn't really there when they were there. So that even though their soul maybe witnessed a little bit, but at the same time, though, their journey was not forgotten, and I compassionately, lovingly say thank you for all the ones that did try to do better for us, even if it was even just someone who has a badge on standing against their fellow man saying this isn't right, and good job for being that kind of a person.
Regan, are you there? Regan? Hello?
Technology is having a problem right now. I couldn't make a phone call earlier today because my phone kept cutting out. So technology is really having a problem lately, and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Regan? Can you hear us? I can see you. Well, that's life. It just what's it? Regan, can you see us? Nod your head if you can see us.
Okay, we got it. We're gonna have to kind of dance with this a little bit because time is going on, and I want to honor those that are watching.
You don't think that they think this is fun? It's not your typical radio show. I'll give you that.
It is not. It is not. And actually, we're trying this new format with the streaming. And so with that, when you're trying something new is not always easy. And so we're navigating this with the knowing that everything is new, and we'll navigate with it.
Yeah. So I'm typing him a message. Don't bug me. I'm a slow typer. It takes me a while to get things done here.
I'm just amazed at how we all feel like we're not going somewhere, but yet actually we're going quite a few places, and it's just amazing. And I think that it's part of his he didn't click sound or something. He needs to check the sound, or the mic, the settings on the bottom of the page.
It should be, and it could be that you are muted as well. Let me try and see. Now unmute you, and you should be able to talk. Regan, say something.
Hello, finally. Welcome.
I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Oh.
That's all right. We don't have much to say anyway. But do you have a headset you can put on? I don't know why I'm asking you. You can't hear me anyway.
I can't hear you. Okay, so then this is how we struggle so much with anger. We were actually going to talk about anger. That, when things like this happen, how many of us turn into anger because things are just not going the way we want them to. And it's kind of funny how life has a synchronicity with it, that we were actually going to talk a little bit about emotions, and anger was going to be part of it. And I think that was a perfect thing to do on Martin Luther King Day, because so many of us have anger about life. And if we notice that all three of us are not getting angry, that all of us have this thing that it's not working well, but at the same time, though, we're saying to ourselves, how can we fix this? How can we manage this? But if you notice that we're trying to take I don't want to say the perspective of, what is this here to teach us, but it's that how can we navigate through this? And I can witness a lot of people who they start getting angry when a situation pops up, and then that just makes the domino effect of it going worse. And and practice makes better. If we can just kind of take that breath and just go, oh well, this is not going right. Like me, I would try to call somebody 4 times and my phone kept saying and just hanging up. And I just went, I guess I'm not supposed to do it right now. It's just one of those things, and I'll go back and do it. And yet at the same time, I just wasn't meant to do it. And, we got to check in with that. Maybe we're supposed to do something different instead of what we're doing. And, we're supposed to be here. And yet at the same time, though, just managing what are we supposed to do here when something's not working quite well? Well, it's called flowing with it a little differently.
Well, you try your best to. He's got earbuds in now. And any luck there, buddy? We're still working on technical issues, but Natasha, you're absolutely right. There are things that are out of our control that we determine, even though they're out of our control, that we are going to take control of them anyway, and then we're going to be very unhappy about. And there really is. I think
he's probably going to try to start over again.
That's probably not a bad idea. So,
yeah, and I want to say that there's a key word in there: control.
Sure.
Control. So many of us have had so many people in our lives trying to show us how to control our lives. And when we don't try to control our lives, it's amazing how much we roll with it. It's kind of like a rock rolling down a hill. We can either try to control which path we're taking, or we can just kind of go with it and go bumpity, 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 bump, and then kind of go, oh, well, bumpity, 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 bump. And, that whole part of control is an interesting process to kind of just say, wait a minute. Okay. Practice makes better. I love that terminology. Practice makes better, because there's no perfection. Practice makes better.
Speaking of perfection, Regan, are you back? Uh-oh. He's typing me a message. So I can't understand why he is not of nothing. I'll log in again, okay? And still no sound. Natasha, you're the expert. Tell him.
I'm gonna laugh at that. He needs. I'm getting that he needs to check some of the settings at the bottom of the page. Maybe his is his sound off on his computer.
Well, I can hear him say something, Regan.
Oh, that's true.
I can hear you.
Yeah, because he just took a breath.
Yes, he did.
and I'm going to say that right now is the key. If people, when they're in frustration mode, if you can just take a breath, a lot of times that breath is the difference between explosion and navigation.
Oh, I heard something.
Yeah, we can hear him. He can't hear us.
Yeah, he's working. He's working on something. Well, this is what they call. See, in the past, what we would do is, since we couldn't make the connection, then what we would do is we would say, okay, well, we'll just restart it all over again, because this isn't live. But this is live radio, and when it's live, it's a completely different thing. So you know. But at the same time, I think people are forgiving of the fact that that this is live, and there's not a dang thing that we can do with it because I'm in Seattle, you're up north, and he's down in California. So it's not
Yes,
like
and I was mentioning on my life clarifications about how we're going through a major dimensional shift right now. And we have many planets that are awakening us. Plus, like if you Google, there's a lot of planets that are kind of shifting and changing out there that they're kind of witnessing. And then at the same time, our planet is starting to get used to our 5G networking. And there's just a whole bunch of stuff that's going on right now. And technology is such a 3D world in the 5D or whatever dimension you want to call it, that sometimes it doesn't keep up with what we need to do. And it's an interesting process because I know for me that I have had to work on switching. Yay, you're arrived! That I had to tell myself to align with all the dimensions as I know now. Let me align. So all the dimensions at one time are here, me doing what I need to do, so that the email that I send, the person will receive it. Or, what was going on in the computer was doing audit on all realms of the computer. And so with that there's this process of this work that we're going through. And it's an interesting process of how are we? Like I was driving on the freeway yesterday, and I felt like there was cars beside me as they were starting to weave off into my lane that they didn't see me because of the dimension I was in. But even though I was on the freeway, I was actually here, but in their dimension, their world, I wasn't there. And so that's where I really had to make sure that I was either in front of them or in back of them so that I could be in the dimension that they were in so that they could see me, so that I was safe, they were safe.
So now that he can hear it, Regan, how are you?
I'm fine.
Well, that's awesome.
You guys look great. Natasha, you're beaming today.
Well, thank you. I'm feeling like I'm in alignment.
Yeah. We both look good, but yeah.
Well, I thank you for that, even though it's hollow, because I hate liars. But anyway, it's great to have you here, Regan. How did your session go today?
Well, it started at 10:30, and it went. We just finished right at 4, and she knew I had the show, so it was great. Her husband was coming to pick her up, so she went out and waited in the waiting room, and then waited for her husband, so she didn't feel I was deserting her. But I gave her every minute. I didn't shorten it at all because it was all the bells and whistles today. I've had 3 since last week, and 2 of them have been just 100%. The other one was this woman's husband, and he was really analytical, and we knew we were going to have a little bit of trouble because he keeps the stupid side of the brain keeps coming in and analyzing everything. We call it Mr. Stupid, and but he did good. He got to his past lives really good, and in the space in between where you go to the afterlife, he just experienced these waves of colored energy, like he was floating in them. And he just loved it. He just said he never felt so much love. And then he went through a door, and then there was more different colored energies. So I told him, I said, you did really good. So I'm going to do another session for him next week because I'm sure he'll probably make it all the way the next time. But today, it was just like I say, every time I do this, blows me away how easy it is for most people to go to a past life and then to be in this in-between space and then have some energy or some being show up that's their guide and then have the experience that we had. And the council today had 4 beings in front of her, mostly energy, although one of them was she said he looked like was half energy and half clothed, kind of like, and was wearing this medallion. And we asked what the medallion was just for support or something there, but they answered. She had lots of questions, and this one was everything had to do with self-love, In other words, the past life she went to was really depressing. Whoa, it was just, she was this little boy, just totally alone, barefoot on the dirt. And I had her move forward in life. And again, alone, nobody with them. It was just this life of, like being deserted, having to grow up on your own without anybody, and walking through that life with no love, with no, there was no kids, no other significant other. Just, then he moved away from that town, and he ended up dying of starvation in some lonely place somewhere. We don't know where it was, but we asked the subconscious later in the thing, why did you show her that life of her being a little boy with that? And the subconscious just told her that it was to show her what she's dealing with in this lifetime, to learn to accept love, to learn to, that she's important, that there are people around her that love her, and that they told her a bunch of things to do, exercises to do. The council did about the way she can learn to self-love, and, with the meditation practice and being in nature and journaling and having quiet time. And it was really she got a lot out of it. I mean, there's a whole much more than that, but it was really one of those ones when you're done with the session and you go, yes, a good one, Don't you feel that way, Natasha, too?
Oh, totally. It's like it's that inner, like, and I was talking with somebody this morning about how the inner, when you get that inner calling to do something and then you're connected with it, it's like it's hard to have boundaries on it. It just feels so enlightening, and so it's just amazing how to navigate. And as Kevin's typing something, so there's this background noise.
Nope, I'm not doing nothing. I'm just sitting here minding my own business.
Oh,
I don't think it's me. I don't know.
It must be you.
Or it could be somebody else that's maybe typing or something like that. I don't know. But we're just all kind of in this moment of where things are at, and great job, Regan. But I'm gonna kind of maybe, can I just offer you something?
You anytime.
Instead of calling it Mr. Stupid,
can
you call it Mr. Not Trusting?
Yeah. That's we had that discussion with, that comes from the QHHT when I'm going now, because Dolores Cannon also called that, but she say lovingly we call it Mr. Stupid, and people recognize with that, but then we had a lot of us that gave some pushback to that and said, well, can we call it something else or whatever? And now what did you say was a good thing to call it?
Mr. Not Trusting.
Mr. Not Trusting. Yeah, that's a little bit more positive. She was a little more
being dyslexic and stuff. I'm never stupid, but yet people called me stupid. So it's one of my self triggers, and it is a trigger for a lot of people, because older siblings would call kids their other siblings stupid, and it's just one of those lower than energies when you want to be an upper than energy.
Yeah, and I just thought too, you just gave me an idea. It could even be like Mr. Analytical pops in.
Yeah,
something like that.
That would do.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me offer that to you.
Anytime. No. Natasha, I am totally open to all that. That's how we evolve,
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's really cool that you guys have, since we've started this thing, you guys have kind of developed a little rapport with each other.
Yeah. I got a sister now.
Yeah, you appreciate each other's gifts. So I'll just sit over here and mind my own business, and you guys go ahead.
Well, now, Natasha, I was going to say today, too, to recommend to the listeners, whoever listens now or later, that Netflix just came out with that new movie called Surviving Death.
And somebody texted me about that.
It's six episodes. I watched all of them, and I watched 3 one day and 3 the other. Each were like, there's a whole bunch there on mediumship. They have a grieving, this one person who lost a loved one started a grieving, I don't want to call company, seminar, and holds it every year. And people come from all over the U.S. and some places of the world, and they're there to grieve for people that they've lost. And one of the things they have there is a medium for them. And a lot of times and when you watch the mediums on there, they seem pretty good. And the people got a lot of solace from that.
There's a lot of us that are very good, and that's what I was talking about before you came on. Is that we all have a different perspective on what mediumship is for our individual work, and so with that, there's just this balance of who we are and what we do, and for me, walking through the grief process that I have, that helps me and to navigate through that. And I'm wondering if somebody's on our line.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Because I heard another woman talking. So, and I don't know if.
Well, they can't be on this line, for heaven's sakes. This is all done via computer. But though,
wasn't I just talking about how dimensions are shifting?
Well, I think you're hearing things.
No, I can hear. No, when I'm talking, do you hear the disturbance also, or just when you're talking?
It's like somebody's typing, and then I heard a woman saying something. So, with that, like I said, that we're going through. Our planet is having a hard time with the 5G. And a lot of us are having a hard time with the 5G. Plus, we're going through an alignment with different dimensions. And I'm going to tell like a table, getting gas in our car. Those are the 3D world. But we're getting up to where we're changing into a higher, finer. The veils are thinning. We still have to do the shadow work. We still have to work with our emotions. We still have to work with a lot of things. But we're coming into. I don't know. There's sometimes when it's right in your face and you gotta deal with it. It's kind of like when you fell and you had to go have surgery. You had to deal with it. How you dealt with it. Now, that was the story, but you had to deal with that circumstance.
You are correct.
So with that, those are those dimensions. Is that we're getting into is how do we manage inside of that? How do we use our internal voice? How do we use our internal knowings? And like when you couldn't hear us, we were talking about how anger and frustration are getting us because of how things aren't perfect. And then I talked a little bit about, this is Martin Luther King Day. And so honoring a little bit about those anger emotions that were especially during the 60s, and they're still here to this day because there's a lot of us that are still working through a lot of those scenarios.
Yeah, I had a client this week from the Newton Institute. Now, this week, they got information. They're having us therapists trade sessions with each other, pairing us up with someone. And we're just asking 4 basic questions about COVID. We're asking about, what are the reasons? How should we deal with it each individually, and also about is the what you call it safe? The stick in your arm. The shot.
Vaccine.
The
vaccination.
Safe, So today, I had my client ask. I asked her ahead of time. I said, "Well, now this is just stuff we're doing research for, and we're going to have your session. But would you be willing to ask?" She says, "Yeah, I want to know that too." And they just told her. They said, "Well, take it if you want to, and don't if you don't." Said it's not going to harm you. They told her, for her thing because she has some physical issues, so that was just her. But the client I had earlier this week, when we asked about, she wanted to ask about Donald Trump and all this craziness going on. And they said, my client asked her guide, or it was either the counselor or the guide, but says, "What's his purpose?" And all they said is one sentence. They said, "To show the dark." That was what they said, to show the dark. So, I haven't contacted her yet, but I'm supposed to do a session with another Newton therapist who lives about 100 miles from me. And so I need to talk to her, and we're going to get together and do another session. So it'd be nice to talk to you after I have another session when I go on the other side and come back.
I get a question for both of you guys, because I've been studying near-death experiences. I've worked with, 30 or 40 mediums, psychics, people that are on the spiritual side of things.
Yeah.
And How do you guys respond to people that are, even though the information that you're providing is accurate, it's real, it's coming from a loving place, and it's designed to help them? How do you deal with people who are cynical at best and just don't believe anything that you say at worst, even though what you're saying they know to be true? They have to know it to be true deep down. I'll give you just a real quick example. John Edward read for my sister, and it's on my independence report. It was 100% accurate in all that he talked about. And yet, at the end of that, after she had processed it for a couple of days, her response was, "Well, I don't know how he does it, but it can't be from God. It can't be spiritual.
Yeah.
It can't be the right thing." How do you guys explain to folks that have questions about that and about whether or not it's real or not? How do you guys explain that it is real and it really is happening? Regan, why don't you go first?
Well, I've had to let go of that because when I was first starting, right, Natasha, you have to just. So what I did because I've had a couple of clients that just came out of curiosity that just wanted to go to a past life. They saw everything, they answered all my questions, and they said, "Wow, that was interesting." And then when they come out and everything, they'll say, "I just made all that up. I didn't really whatever." And then now, what I just say to them, I said, "Well, that's one way of looking at it. You get to decide." Because it's just these images that come in your mind, and you can think it's just your imagination or real. But I do know though that that's one step further that they are, because they experience that, and then something else is going to probably come along later and later and later. Maybe I was the one chosen just to give them the introductory thing. Like sometimes people would say, I was in Christian churches before, and one person came up and said, "I brought this person to Christ this week," and the pastor just said, he said, "Well, it may feel like that, but I bet the seed was planted many, many years ago, and that you just happen to be the final step." So telling the person, don't feel so high and mighty about it. Have a little, look at the whole picture, kind of like. But I think that's how it happens. Like even with me, like especially now, this is what Natasha's been really good for me here too. I think Natasha's been the final step for me in really getting rid of my doubts and things about that, because I watched Sylvia Brown and John Edwards and the Long-Eyed Medium, and I've always kind of believed it in a way, but it's just becoming more real to me now. Like the final phase or something of me really, and like I have no qualms about recommending someone go to a medium. I say just check their credentials, because I know too, like Natasha will say, there's a lot of them out there that just fakes. Just same with astrologers and everybody. You have to
Check it with their integrity.
do your due diligence and then pick somebody, because it's really good when you watch that. And I'm sure both of you probably will this weekend. We would maybe even have a great discussion about that
Tonight.
People to watch it, because it's the Surviving Death on Netflix, as I'm saying again for those who just tuned in. The 6 episodes, there was one that still got me a little bit, but I still believe it. And they're showing the episodes of where some of the mediums, or they're actually channeling now. They're trying to say the difference between channeling and medium, but where they have ectoplasm that comes out of their orifices. And it's like, and they showed pictures of it, and it's just like junk coming out of your body, and it's like ectoplasm or something like this. It comes out during the thing, and sometimes it's even formed into hands, like this stuff coming out of this body or whatever. And there's a whole thing, and it's just I'm a little bit skittish of bodily fluid stuff anyway, so I think that's it's my Catholic upbringing there. No potty talk, no
No
kind of stuff.
icky stuff coming out of the orifice of your body.
Well, and the person on there said, yeah, they said any orifice. So.
But there again is that for me, like I do channeling.
Yeah.
I'll channel archangels. I'll channel my own inner fairy. I'll channel a lot. but yet I will not channel like anybody who's, like ascended masters or personal guides or that kind of thing, because that's not for me.
Yeah.
And it's called trust, and there is that fine line between boundaries.
Yeah. Well, there's a school, and one of the things, there's a school, it's over in Europe, I think, somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to watch it again, but it was, for people to go that want to become mediums. In other words,
Yes.
They come with some basic talent, and then when they're over there, they are taught, how to start becoming mediums too. I guess it's a little bit like here in San Francisco, they have the Psychic Institute, or I think it's in Berkeley. And, people can go there. And I have a friend that does readings now, and she went there for a couple of years and developed her talent. So it's, it's
the difference. I tell people the difference between you and me is trust.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's just trust. Like you trust yourself, Regan, doing your thing. I trust what I'm doing. And that's what I do with, there's somebody's in our mic or something. I don't know. I'm getting that it's somebody's technology here that's causing the typing type of sound. But, to go back to Kevin's question about how do I manage this? A lot of times at the beginning of a session, I mention to people, this is your truth is your truth. My truth is my truth. And what I'm asking you to do during the session, whatever part of you that it's having a hard time, just put this information in your back pocket and just see how it kind of walks towards you during this time. And because right now, we're in a moment of really deciding what is our truth. And like Tammy did a question, mentioned in the chat about how that often she struggles with with making it up, but then at the same time, there's something later that confirms. Kind of like for me, I had an astrology reading this morning, and a lot of that intuitive stuff that I'm feeling, those pushes I'm feeling, a lot of that inner talk I'm hearing, and that kind of stuff, my guides talking to me and stuff like that. She confirmed it in my planets and how they're aligning for me. So now, seeing what the alignment of the planets are, I can work with that. There's going to be things in our lives that are going to wake us up, and like Regan was saying, is that planting a seed. Even me working on the playground at school, I know that there's sometimes where I just need to say something to a kid. Like one day I said to a kid, he goes, "I'm just such a bad kid." And I stopped him and I said, "Sweetie, you're not a bad kid. You may be making not decisions that are good for your greater good. You might be struggling with the better decisions you're making, but you're definitely a great kid who's just having a hard time in life." Came back to me in high school and said, "You made the difference in my life." Because he had other things in his life that showed him he wasn't a bad kid. He was just struggling with decision making. And so with that's that part of trust that we need to work with to get ourselves to be more intuitive.
Yeah. It's funny how people in your life, sometimes it's just a sentence you'll hear at one time in your life, and it carries through your whole life. Like I was with my father, I was at an Oktoberfest at the Catholic Church, and it was the first time I ever saw my dad drink beer. And he had a second beer a little bit, and he was I could tell he was altered a little bit. He was being a little giggly, and he pulled me aside and he said, "Son, everything in moderation in this life. It's okay to have some drinks. It's okay to do that. But he said, if you do things just in moderation, everything will be good." And I thought of that a zillion times when I'm about ready to go over moderation, and I think of that my dad said. So like you just say that one thing on the playground and it gets through, and that can really, you picture these kids are going down a certain path and you say that line to them, they kind of get it, and then all of a sudden they shift and they go down this other road instead of the one they were on. So yeah, it's good.
And by the way, those that are listening to us, and I thank you for that, we are now starting, and we've got some challenges with our audio here, but we will get that fixed. And we are going to be on YouTube and Facebook, every Monday at 4 o'clock with Regan and Natasha and myself, and it's a great discussion that we always have, and it. Oftentimes we start off talking about something and we end up talking about a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know, and I'm so grateful. Like Erica, you know, my love goes to you, sweetie, because of what your struggles have been in life. And I'm grateful that I can actually be some seed of support for you, because I know that I'm just one piece of the corner of the world, you know, with what we are. And I just want to, that's why I'm in this world, is to try to support people to be who they are. Like I had one person, you know, and I talked about this on another show, I think, or even this one, that, you know, that I had a session with someone and she was contemplating suicide and she was just young. You know, she was still in high school. And I said, sweetie, if I would have made that choice then, you know, I wouldn't be here with you, supporting you through this. You know, she's very intuitive. She feels a lot. And she has a hard time walking down the hallway because she gets so bombarded by other people's feelings. And you know, I told her I gave her tools on how to do that. And I said, would I be here to support you if I would have listened to that other part of me that said, I don't want to do this? And she says, no. And she said, and Regan, you're, you know, we're trying to figure out the sound. So Kevin muted you. But, you know, it's just one of those things that as we're working through this dance of life and getting triggered, you know, at the beginning of this, we struggled with, you know, technology. We're still struggling with technology. We get these triggers in life. We get these processes of life. And it's just interesting. We can just breathe through them and know it's not personal, but yet the personal walk is to learn something from it. And I'm hoping that through this technology thing, what we're talking about today is helping someone walk through life. And I think we found out who our technology problem is.
Regan, could you kind of I don't know, jiggle your audio, that because it's,
or your phone,
or whatever.
It's just my iPhone, so there's nothing, no wires or anything hooked up to it.
Oh, okay. That's better.
Well, let me turn. I'm right here next to the television, and let me turn off the TV that's right behind us. More electronics. In case
that may be part of it. That may be part of it. But I did want to make a statement to those people that are listening, that it's important for you to know that when you're talking to someone like a Natasha, or you're talking with a Regan, what they're talking about is real. Now, it is honest and it is real what they're saying, because I've been around so many psychics, so many mediums that have got some really extraordinary things to say, and they've really made a change in people's lives. And that's why you do what you do, isn't it, Natasha? Because you can make a change in somebody's life, like Regan did today.
You know, that is, you know, I was talking to someone today that when you're in that calling of doing your heart, your soul's calling, and you align with it, like right now, I'm feeling very much in alignment with it, that it's just, it just sends that love through me that I just want to, that I can't be anybody else but this. And sometimes I have to kind of go, to shut myself up, because it just wants to come out, you know, and so with that, the you know, and I know Regan, you know, he's in attune with his life finally, and you could just see him glowing when he's talking about it, and what a gift that is. And you know, we're all human going through this experience, and I'm just hoping and praying that as we're walking, that more and more people start hearing the call to find your loving truth, to find that grace that you can find, even though you may have heard other comments when you're older, when you're younger, you know, from parents and stuff. Find your own truth so that you can find that inner peace. Because that's what this life is about find that inner love, that inner self-love that, you know, like my dad put me in front of the mirror when I was younger, when I was a child, saying it's time for you to say you love yourself. And that helped me work through a lot of my self-doubts. that now I can say pay off.
Yeah.
And trust.
And trust.
Trust
Yeah,
is
and you'll hear us say on the show, anybody out there, as we get to the suicide thing, we did another show a little bit on that. But, you know, if you're feeling down and you have those feelings of suicide, the people that have committed suicide that we found out from the other side, they're totally unhappy with what they did. There's no hell. You're not going to be cast into a fire pit or anything like that. But you yourself as soul, when you get to the other side, you're going to be going like, "Oh, what did I do?" You know,
I missed an opportunity.
Yeah, you missed an opportunity. Like the one of my clients was there with a relative that passed away or committed suicide, and talking to him, and an angel was getting ready to take him to show him what his life would have been like if he hadn't committed suicide, to try to show him that next time he needed to not take the shortcut, which is a long cut. It's not a shortcut. You're not getting out of anything.
I've had the opportunity. Go ahead.
Just when you see the devastation that you leave behind, you know, we're so into our own feelings and everything we do. We get to be selfish in a way, and we're only think of our own feelings. But boy, when the people on the other side, when they committed suicide and they see the horrible damage they caused to people that loved them and everything they had to go through, that just makes them really, really upset with themselves that they did that, you know. So don't you just have to, you know, go to a counselor, talk about it, call a suicide hotline, or just know that you're going to write it out and you're going to be okay. I mean, it's easy to say when you're not in the middle of that, but you know.
I witnessed a man blow his head off.
You were?
Yeah. It was 4th of July. He decided he was going to go out with a big bang. He had a wife and 3 kids. His wife was having an affair. He walked in on her and took his gun, went into the woods, and I was walking up on him when he pulled the trigger and took his own life.
Oh, Kevin.
He was 32, 33. My brother-in-law committed suicide after his wife died when he was 42, and he shot himself as well. That was 20 years ago. And every time I think about those 2 individuals, I think about everything that they've missed, all the wonderful things that life has to offer. And then when they got to the other side, the message that I believe that they both got was, what a waste.
Yeah.
You wasted your life. You wasted your time.
Yeah,
but I want to say that people, and sorry for Regan for cutting you off there, the people are not punished when they crossed over. This is just the overall message that they may get, but they're also shown love. They're also shown a lot of different things, and I want to say though, being a medium for a lot of mothers and a lot of fathers and a lot of family members, siblings, family members who have committed suicide, there's a lot of them that are struggling with the energy of now. And if they would have somebody who can teach them how to manage the energy so that they weren't so bombarded by anger, frustration, you know, like how many of us in this next week are going to be feeling anger, frustration, grief, joy because of the riots and the election and the all those kinds of things that are coming through. You know, we have to decide what is our energy and what is that energy. And if we can even just say that, what's yours is yours, what's mine is mine, and what stands between me is an angel, love, my higher power, colors, whatever you want. That me even saying that right now, that my heart stopped aching so much because I'm not feeling so much what's going on in the energies out there. And so many of us are so empathic with feelings that we need to decide really how are we going to manage those emotions. We can care about others, but do we need to carry that? No. And so a lot of the people who, when I say that they had a hard time with the vibrations of this planet, they had a hard time because nobody really taught them how to decide what was their vibration, angers and emotion and anxiety, and what was somebody else's.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people that are empaths, you know, have high suicide rate sometimes that they don't realize what's going on because they're just feeling they're feeling the world's pain. I have trouble with that sometimes too. I have to realize in the training that I'm taking now too, they talk about how important it is for you to realize it's not your job to take on everybody's emotions and everything. You know, you have to be strong so that they can, you know, to get them through it. Because, you know, so yeah.
Well, I know when you get to the other side, and when I said that you would regret it, I didn't mean that you were going to be chastised or you were going to be punished. It's you that you realize because when the young man took his own life, he did not realize. I still hear this to this day. His brother was on the ridge ahead or above him when he pulled the trigger. And the grief and the sorrow and the pain that man went through trying to get to his brother who no longer was with us because he put the gun underneath his chin. And the pain that his whole family went through, there were like 15 or 20 of them. And he was so self-absorbed at that moment that he couldn't even see the forest through the trees. And it was a sad thing. And I know that he was on the other side going, that was a pretty stupid thing to do. Look at the pain that caused and stuff. So, you know, if you feel like you are angry and suicidal, get help. Go talk to the suicide helpline. Go talk to Natasha. Go call Regan. Have them help you through it because these people can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can get through it. You know, people have had really, really probably more horrible things than you've ever had happen to yourself, to whoever's listening. There's people that's done, like I've talked a lot and done a lot worse, and they've gotten through it and they've become stronger. It's been a growing experience for them, and they're so glad and happy that they didn't end their life when they could have. But I tell people too, don't feel bad or something's wrong with you if you have the feelings or the thoughts of maybe committing suicide. Because you've been there at some point and it goes through your mind and you go, now I understand why people do it sometimes. But then we decide not to, you know, but it's normal to have those feelings when you're in grief, when you've had, you know, some horrible things happen to you. So just thinking it doesn't mean you're going to do it or doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It's normal. You know, you just work through it.
And it's actually a spot. When we recognize those spots and kind of accept where we're at, it actually gives us a chance to have almost a bouncing board behind us that springs us forward. You know, it's like, okay, I know I'm here. What can I do now? And it's just one of those moments because I'm married to my husband almost 30 years now, and I just found out that he almost thought about committing suicide when he was younger too. You know, and it's like, I can bet you that there's not one person in this world, and it'd be a miracle if somebody didn't think about doing that.
Yeah. Like
so,
I've had clients that are cutters. You know, they cut themselves, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And usually when we were taught in school that a lot of times that's almost a good sign because they didn't kill themselves. The cutting is a way of them releasing the emotional pain they have, you know, by doing something physical to themselves. It's somehow they feel it releases their pain, and they're actually like crying for help is what they're doing, you know, for someone to help them. So, you know, if you have a daughter or someone you know or young, I had one of my daughters did cutting for a while, and she was just going through because she got made fun of so much at school, you know, for the condition that she had that you know she couldn't take the bullying from kids, you know. And she was we got her to a counselor. She was fine, you know, after that. But, you know, they just, you know, it's just a way that some people do to deal with it. So others just go to alcohol or drugs, just, you know, anything to numb the pain. You'd be surprised too. Like on my website, there's 4 veterans that are going through EFT, which is the tapping, and they have severe post-traumatic stress. So anybody goes to my website, it's a good thing to watch. And you'll see most of these men were into drugs and alcohol, you know, with their nightmares and everything they had. But once they dealt with the issue, then they didn't drink anymore, they didn't smoke anymore, or, you know, they didn't have to hide anything anymore because they dealt with their feelings, their emotions. So,
and I think that that's part of the cutting and the thoughts is that we kind of go inward and we forget that we can go outward. And I can understand that. You know, I've been through that deep dark depression, especially after my mom passed away, where I had to learn to be a wife and a mother again. And it was hard to kind of sometimes get out of it. But I can tell you though that music, walking, doing something physical, when you're feeling lonely, you know, instead of going inward, call a friend. You know, just do something that is opposite of your emotion. Sometimes can break the habit of being in that emotion because emotions like to be repetitive. They like the attention. Like there's sometimes I'm doing a session and I'm seeing this cloak in front of them of, let's say, doubt. And I say, okay, we're going to ask doubt to step aside, you know, and I just say, let him be out of in front, you know, where you can see, so that it can be a witness of our session to see how it can trust a little bit more. And people kind of go, oh, and then they go, wait a minute, doubt just walked in front of me again, didn't it? And I said, yes. And so then we work on putting doubt to the side again. So we have emotions that sit in front of us that don't let us see how to get through it. And if we can do those things, music, getting in the car and driving, just getting out of where we're at, calling a friend, calling someone we don't know. You know, like I had somebody who called the wrong number and we had a conversation. You know?
he called the right wrong number.
The right wrong number, you know, so you never know what you can do to get out of that moment, because I know that a lot of us, and someone made a comment here that she's gone through, she lost a child. What is the thing that the grief that is unspeakable, that makes everything doubt about us, you know, and that kind of grief is just, you know, it's like take me out, whip me around, and then put me back around again. You know, it's like there's nothing more that you can walk through that is more hurtful and sad and damaging. And yet, you know, it does start walking where we get to where we can walk through it. And I'm hoping now that you can just kind of see, you know, this wonderful woman, that she is a beautiful being who's going to make a difference in somebody's life. And her paintings are making big difference in people's lives. And so with that, you know, the more that she can just do, the more she will feel that love, because she is very loved.
And by the way, I'd like to thank everybody for getting on to chat and talking with us. It was really great. Tammy has a comment, and I want to read that real quick. And she says she has an empath friend that needs to learn not to take on all the emotion from the others around her. It's been very hard on her, and because she's such a people person. What she needs to, from my perspective, what she needs to understand, Tammy, is that you're not allowed to take on other people's shit. Excuse the expression. It's not yours, it's theirs. And you can help them as best you can through their stuff, but it's not your responsibility or her responsibility to take it on. She has to let it go and let that person do what that person is going to do, because that is her life plan. That's her life destiny, that she's going to do what she's going to do. So the best that you can do is to give her the best advice you can, and then give her a big old fat hug and a kiss and let her go, and then let the emotions go with it.
Yeah.
That's my advice. What do you think?
Well, and I think too that a lot of people are trying to figure out how not to be caregivers. You know, we've been taught to be caregivers, which means we become people person. We try to save them. We try to do things for them. We try to be a part of their lives, and because it makes us feel good. Well, like for me, I kind of flipped those words around and I said, I'm a giver of care. So instead of being a caregiver where I have to take care of people, I give my love, I give my care to people, and that helps me be loving without being the one that has to take and do for others. And if we can just give that language maybe to her, Tammy, try being a giver of care instead of giving a caregiver. Because if you look, that energy is even about giving instead of receiving.
Yeah, good.
Regan?
Good point. Yeah, like, well, in the like Natasha and I talked about before, you think even earlier in this session, is we have to watch out for not being too empathetic, because that energy from all these people, because you have one friend that has, or a few friends that you're being empathetic to with their problems. But we see people after people, sometimes 5 or 10 people a week, and they all have these serious, really issues. So if we take on all that, can you imagine the burden that we'd be carrying on our shoulders? Even when I decided to do this work, when I spent my time in heaven and I was coming on my way back, and I had the guide with me there, he made sure that I wanted to do this kind of work. He says, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And when I said yes, enthusiastically, he warned me about that. And he said, "You have to find ways of listening to people's issues, but not taking them on as your own." Because he said, if you do, he told me out just straight up, just in a sentence, he said, if you don't, you're going to get sick and you're going to die. And I said, well, what can I do? Now, he gave me, I don't know how this would pertain to you. Who is it, Tammy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, Tammy,
It's like a friend of Tammy.
One of the things you can do, you're feeling for your friend and you want to be there to help them. You can be a listener. That's one thing. You can just listen. If you have issues, you can be a listener. That'll help them a lot, just by having something to listen to. But if you find you're taking it on yourself, you could do a spiritual exercise. Here's one you could do. Just picture as your friends telling you their issues and everything, and you're feeling this emotion. Feel it passing through you in like a white light or something, or golden light, and that their issue is just going back. Or as you're talking to her with your heart, just send her like a white picture, or just a white pure light that you're sending her or something. This is kind of helping her, but keeping it from attaching to you, or go, if you're feeling that way. They told me to spend more time in nature. They said nature's just that's why people are attracted to go to the ocean or go on vacation somewhere in the mountains, because while you're there, this energy of the trees, of the ocean, everything is like siphoning out all of your, your stress and your problems and everything. The ocean and just the energy and everything. So, go for a walk or something, but do a spiritual practice, whatever your religion is. If you're Christian, just say, look up, hey, Jesus, I don't want to, I want to feel for my friends or anything that I can do, but I'm giving you her issue to deal with, so, but the other thing too is feel good about yourself, that you're a good enough soul and have an open enough heart that you have open feelings for people, because some people are so shut off that they will not let anybody get in their space at all. But by having an open heart for that, it just shows you're a good person, that you have feelings, that you care. You're a person that cares about people. So that's in your favor.
And I'd like to thank Erica for chiming in as well. And she said the last year and a half have been the hardest of my life. And those thoughts around suicide do cross your mind from time to time. And I'd like to thank her for also giving Natasha a shout out and validating what she does, because she's helping you. And from my perspective, we all love you, and we know that you're going to be fine. And just keep working with Natasha, and you'll be doing fine. Natasha?
Well, and too, there's a couple things that I can give tools of, is that, like when I used to do hair and I'd be doing the shampoo and I was within just inches of somebody else. And as they were talking about their day, I would picture a mirror and what they were talking about, because people need to release. That they would be releasing, and it would bounce back. They would bounce the mirror, but the mirror was about love. And so whatever that they were saying was bouncing to me, and then bouncing back, being love changed. And then I got an image also. This is another thing that I do, that I have like this really wonderful big Norwegian ship. And it metaphorically comes down in between me and the person that's talking. And this is just a disclosure that I do. And on this ship, wonderful old ship, there's angels, guides, personal beings, and they have these garbage cans that as this person is talking, they're taking it. And as I'm sitting here with love, being loving, being a giver of care, they're taking this stuff off of the person who's talking on the other side of the table of me. And as they're doing this, the ship goes away. And then it turns around and comes back, and they give back the person this changed energy. And so for me, I'm just being loving. And with that and I ask the person after I say this, they go, do you notice anything different about me and how much I care? Do I seem like I care less? And they go, actually, no, it makes me feel like you care more, because I'm not being the sponge. And then I had a session with someone who said that I've been told I've been a sponge my whole life. And I said, well, let's put your sponge on the boat. And she goes, oh, that means I'm not responsible for my sponge anymore. Great. And they brought back a heart so that she can have more love for the people, so she can give more love to the people. And so it was kind of interesting how if we just say, I give love more, then I give my heart, or I'm a giver of care instead of a caregiver. Many times that can change that whole, you can be a people person, but do you have to be the person that you're being a person with? There's a fine line with that, I feel like. And I'm hoping that people can find a new truth with how they dance with that perspective of themselves.
Very, very wise statement there, young lady. Well, you know what, guys? We've been doing this and we try and keep it in an hour. I got a feeling that as we get down the road a little bit, it's going to take a lot more time than just an hour.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting out of this.
Well,
and
yeah.
Go ahead, Regan.
Well, just say thanks to the listeners there that chimed in and had a question or anything. Like Natasha and I, we're just souls like you, just on the same path, trying to learn. Everybody's doing their thing, but it's nice that they chimed in. So if you wanted to get a hold of Natasha or me or something, feel free to get through our websites or something if you have any questions or things, or if we can maybe recommend a book for you or somebody to see in your area. Natasha does online stuff, and I do regular therapy online and past life regression online. If we go deeper in that, where you actually visit, where you go between lives and come back, then it's good to be in person. But I could get you just somebody in your area or neighborhood, or somebody that could maybe help you, because I'm not the only one trained. There's about 250 of us around the country. So
you're really getting good at promoting there, Regan. So why don't you tell us how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, it's promoting, but it's not. It's just like Natasha. It's like I'd like to help people.
I'm helping now.
Okay, my website is Visit the Afterlife. Real easy. visittheafterlife.com. And there's tons of videos on there. You can actually see a process of a young woman there that goes through a past life, goes to the afterlife, and has a bunch of questions answered about her life. And it's a life-changing experience. And it's something that we found out now that anybody can do. God seemed to give us a built-in God switch, as I call it, that when you get to a certain state, you can just do this. And most people are successful in it. And we're coming into a whole new realization of life right now, with everything going through, and the life changes, the earth's changing, the world's changing, as you can kind of see right before you with the COVID and politics and everything like that. So go to Visit the Afterlife, and you can contact me in the back. My phone number's in there if you need to call or something. And thanks for listening.
And Erica would like to know the website one more time.
Visit the Afterlife. All one word, visittheafterlife.com.
And if anybody would like to get a hold of Natasha, I'm sure that she would like to arrange that. And she's got a class coming up. Talk about all that stuff you got coming up.
I just want to say, first off, that even I would trust myself with Regan. And I don't trust very many people with myself. So I would totally trust Regan wholeheartedly. And your tools are greater than you're even admitting. The way your life story has brought so much self-awareness into your sessions that you can help many. So thank you for being you. So for me, you can reach me at angelicclarifications.com. And with that we all have these moments where we're working through things. And I have a class coming up this next month about how we want to bring in the new moon. We can write new contracts. I've written new contracts with my personal self-worth, my dyslexia, my money, my marriage, how I'm interacting with a lot of different things, and it has changed my life 100%. So writing a new contract can help your life, and this is a great time to do it. And also, we're going to talk about the Chinese New Year and what the ox represents. And also, I have done a Bagua feng shui vision board, and it applies everything in your life, your health, your finances, and it makes you create this energy field. And I'm going to tell you, my vision board has come to life. And so with that I just want to say that I'm going to have that class the 9th of February. I almost drew a blank on the date. Then you can go to my website or go to Facebook to find out more information on that.
Very good. And the website again is?
angelicclarifications.com.
Very good. I'd like to thank both of you. Regan, if you could stay with us after we end the show. Natasha wanted to beat us up for a moment. And so if you don't mind. So really, I'd like to thank everybody that's been with us, all the listeners, all the people that have called in or text in. And one of these days, we're going to get our phone lines working again so that we'll be able to take your calls. And this lineup, these two folks can help you in a great deal of ways. So I hope that you'll take the time to do that. And by the way, be kind to one another.
And blessings to everyone. You are just human walking through the experience. Please trust that you can do it. He's got to find the right button.
Well, I have to wait for it to end. I love my little ending.